Welcome back to the Dynasty Football Key. Man, hey, we had Koopa on yesterday, but today we got the tear down king himself, Iowa Michael, joining the show. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Busy day and all that, but dude, we got football coming up right around the corner. Shoot, we got college football already, man. I'm excited, dude. So just another week to get our thoughts out there. Go ahead and claim our hot takes and make sure that people know what we're standing on. So, man, for you though, I feel like I've loved listening to your content because it's not just about the player takes. It's how can you just improve that roster? Just keep accumulating those assets to that way when you're ready to actually unload the clip and just go all in for it, you got everything you need to make it happen. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about how we can work on tearing down and a little bit of a QB hoard and how that might help some of your rosters, just depending on what strategy you're going with. But first, Mike, let the people know where they can find you at and what you guys got going on.
We are incredibly busy. Man, the season's kicking off here, so southharmonff.com. Check out the website. South Harmon Fantasy Football on YouTube. Pretty much the best places to find what we got going on. And if you want to make the jump and you want to join the community, the Discord is always popping, which is probably the backbone of what we do. Just our community is the best, the best out there. I love everybody who's in it, and that's why they come and stay with us at the expo. Man, we rent out a whole school, and they come and stay the whole week with us and do all kinds of crazy, wild stuff, and then leave not sober and hurting. So patreon.com/South Harmon. That's where you can find that.
Yeah, and real quick, what is that promotion you guys got going on with the Wounded Warriors Family Support?
Oh, so I'm doing pros with Joe's this year, first year doing it. So my cause, I picked Wounded Warriors Family Support. So if you want to enter in, just go to my socials at Iowa Michael. Is where you can find me. Pin tweet up there. Any donation is appreciated, but every dollar that you donate gets you an entry into drafting with me, running the league with me, and if I got my way, we're gonna kill it. All right, we're gonna be number one at the end of the season. So, and everything goes to a good cause. I mean, it's a really good organization helping out families for wounded, killed, missing in action men and women who sacrifice everything for us to be able to do stuff like this.
Yeah,
Hop
man.
on and talk Dynasty football as soon as I get off of work. It's great.
Yeah. Hey, gotta love it, man. So, hey, appreciate you coming on. And look, man, I again love the thought of tearing down, but you got to have two to tango. But the beautiful thing about Dynasty is teams are in different spots. So sometimes it makes sense when you're dealing with somebody who really wants to go all in on maybe a player take, or they just feel that they're a piece away and maybe you can build from that. But it's going to see maybe from your perspective, could you break it down for us how you go about it and what you think about the about tearing down?
I love to down tier in almost every single league. Now there's certain league formats where you kind of want to do the opposite and you want to tier up, but those are going to be like your start 8, your start 9 lineup leagues for sure. You need those kind of studs. One QB leagues, the people who play in 8-man leagues or 10-team leagues. It's all about who the biggest alphas are that you can put in your lineup. So for a majority though of my leagues, I don't play in most of that stuff. I mean, I think the smallest one I have is maybe a start 10. We have some wild like start 16s. We got some crazy IDP leagues. So just in general for like a vanilla league, a start 10, a start 11, tearing down has always been pretty beneficial to me. And it's pretty easy to do just because of the simple fact everybody wants the fancy things, right? Like you want the name brand. Adam and I do a show, name brand, off brand. Everybody wants the name brand stuff, man. Nobody wants to go, get that, those janky Oakleys, right? You don't want them knockoff Jordans. So sometimes though that stuff, the off-brand stuff is just as good, man. And it's easy to get because people are so locked into their player takes. Sometimes they're like, this guy's a stud. I'm never giving him up. Fine, perfect. I got one of those guys. You want him? Sure. I'll take like 2 or 3 of your assets off your team, and we'll just make up the difference, right? I'll go from the name brand to the off-brand, and I'll take the appropriate draft capital on top of it, and just in general, if you kind of treat everything, I talk about it a lot. If you want to treat everything kind of like the stock market, if you got a stock that's a blue chip stock worth $1,000, if I get two stocks that are worth $600, they ain't $1,000, but I'm money ahead already. And what happens if those $600 stocks, go up? What if they go up to 1,000? Then I'm really money ahead. So kind of just being player agnostic and recognizing tiers and recognizing bias that's kind of around in the dynasty community, just on how they value players. Right? It's all about the names, and it's sometimes not always about what actually makes for a winning roster.
Yeah, man. And look, I just turned the green light on for you. I know you're an Eagles fan, and I'm about to pull up a trade where I don't know if it's a little bit of bias, but it looks like you just sent away CD Lamb. So you're talking about someone worth 1,000. I mean, this guy's about to get
He's
paid
a
like
thousand.
134 million or something like that. So I mean, look, I understand wanting to tear down, but break this down for me, man. How do you this is painful, to see CeeDee Lamb go like this.
It is,
But
man.
but Blake Corum, I can see the scenario because look, it's been since 2016 since the Rams have had a back-to-back repeating RB1. If that trend changes this year, that means Kyron needs to be on more rosters. But Blake Corum might have an opportunity to return a lot of value himself. But how do you feel about this trade? Obviously, y'all press the accept button, but how you feeling about this one?
Here's the thing with any like dynasty trade, man. Context comes into it being so key. I can look at one dynasty trade, for example, if I were to look at this one, right? Take the names out of it, it's not mine, and be like, oh man, if this is a start nine lineup league, I don't know if I let CD Lamb go for this, to be completely honest. But because this is a deeper best ball with wild scoring all over the place, which nobody really has a clue like how it's going to play out, you're sitting there and you're going, listen, we just came out of the startup, all these first round picks, all these draft picks in here, nobody really has a good idea like who's good in this league, who's bad in this league. Everybody is really tight knit. Why not be the first one to the market? Why not be the first one to start taking some of these draft picks on and get off a player like CeeDee Lamb, which I love him. He's amazing. Wide receiver one, man. but
Yeah.
but I can get just another piece. I don't have to start Blake Corum. It's not a lineup league. He's just going to go in when he does stuff. And if he goes up in value, great. Like, that's found money. Maybe I can get a second out of him, a good second next year. Maybe I can get a first round pick out of him. Maybe I get even more if he comes out and he does actually unseat Kyron Williams, which isn't crazy to think about. It's not ludicrous. And then you got two liquid firsts, you got a second and a third. And in a best ball league that's as deep as this, having those second and thirds, those are just liquid gold currency because they're such a movable piece. You can toss them into deals, you can do sweeteners. When I'm ready to actually compete, those picks are going to be really valuable on how I roster construct. It's a lot more throws at the dartboard, right, to try to hit that home run in
Yeah.
2025 class, 2026 class. So on the surface, though, like if you were to look at this trade and be like, wow, you let him go for dirt cheap, I'm with you. If this was a lineup start 9, start 10, yeah, roast me. But it's a deeper best ball league, and it's just a different animal. That's why context just means so much to dynasty trades, because not everybody's playing in the same vanilla cookie cutter leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, it makes a huge difference, especially since it's best ball. But still, it's tough. I feel like sometimes even in season when stuff really starts to hit the fan, maybe you can go squeeze a little more. But I don't know that it's still a decent package. I would be nervous to do it, but I do feel good about Corum actually increasing in value right off the rip. So yeah, man. I mean, I love it, and it makes sense in a lot of other scenarios, even beyond this trade, guys. When you can just accumulate more for your roster, you don't even know. Like now in the future, he's got these assets. He doesn't know what he's going to do with them. Maybe there'll be players that will get plugged in this lineup through best ball, but he might be able to flip that into more and more and more, and then just have a juggernaut. So I get it from that standpoint. And one of the other techniques that you've been pulling off pretty well is the QB hoard. uh, for you, man, I just saw on one of your recent posts. I mean, I feel like you had maybe a fifth of the total quarterbacks in the league.
That's what it feels
Maybe it's
like,
like,
don't it?
yeah. Let me pull that up here because I mean that's pretty ridiculous. But when you put that squeeze on guys, I mean we've already seen one quarterback go down, right? So with JJ McCarthy out, if you were holding on to Sam Darnold, you're feeling pretty good. I've already seen him put on the block in multiple leagues. Sam Darnold, like a week ago, Sam Darnold, what was he going for? Nothing.
Third
Now,
rounder, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because he did have a chance to start maybe week one or a couple of weeks there, but I mean, this could happen with anyone else. If someone just, what if Rodgers goes down? Someone's going to be coming to you for a Bryce Young here, or uh, maybe maybe the Giants get a little annoyed with Daniel Jones and they bring in Drew Lock. But man, how do you feel about QB horrors in general, and what's the craziest horde that you got going on?
Man, I love doing QB hordes. If my league will let me do it and they devalue quarterbacks enough, I'll do it every single time. Doesn't matter if it's rookie draft, doesn't matter if it's, a startup draft, which this one's coming out of a fresh startup that we started at the expo. Mind you, while we were there, just everybody was there. We
Hey,
decided to do a best ball dynasty league. So they know I quarterback hoard too, and they still let me do it. I don't understand. Like, here's the thing, man. I put out a video a few weeks back about quarterback hoarding, and there's just some basics to it, right? Like, don't quarterback hoard in a 10-team league because quarterbacks aren't as valuable, right? Quarterback hoard in 12-team leagues only, super flex only,
yeah,
right? Not one QB leagues. No one cares in one QB. Yes, I've seen people who put off like one QB hordes, and then they bend people over in trades. It's not the norm. In best ball leagues and 12-team superflex, you have to, and I will go to my grave with this. You have to have three quarterbacks who are starting almost every single week, because
yeah,
even a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, they're going to have a week or two where they're just like their QB 25. They had a bad week. Maybe it was a weather game that they couldn't get anything going. It happens. You want to make sure that your quarterback spot and your superflex spot is always, right around that 20 burger every single week in just traditional scoring. So having quarterbacks in a best ball league is key. But I pull off quarterback hordes even in lineup leagues, 12-team lineup leagues, just
okay,
because
yeah,
eventually you start to get down where people are they're like, well, I'm okay starting a skill player in my superflex. That's the worst skill player you would have started. Like, I don't care if you put CeeDee Lamb in your super flex spot. That means whoever's starting at your wide receiver 1 was actually your wide receiver 2. Who was ever at 2 was your 3. Who was ever at
yep,
3 would have been a flex option at best. Like, you could do whatever mental gymnastics you have to do, but you're subparing your team. You're suboptimal if you're starting skill players in your super flex spot. So you always want to start quarterbacks in the super flex spot, even in lineup leagues. You can get away with, though, like having one week where, I got Allen and Hurts. I don't need to carry a really good third quarterback because I'm probably not starting this guy outside of bye weeks, injuries, etc. So what I will say for that is like it becomes a little bit more tricky in lineup leagues. In best ball leagues, it's easy mode. It's face roll mode. And if you get into a 14 team super flex league, oh my gosh. Oh man, they let you pull off a quarterback horde. Just stand your ground. That is probably the one thing I see when people try to quarterback horde. They cave too
don't let
easily.
them lowball you.
Yeah, they let
Yeah,
them lowball you. They're afraid their league's going to freeze them out. That's why I said in the video, like, you have to be okay with being bad sometimes. Like, you have to go, like, worst case scenario, nobody trades with me.
yeah,
Nobody does. I'm stuck with all these quarterbacks. That's worst case scenario.
I bet.
But I'm okay being the 101 in 2025. I really am. Like, you're doing me a favor. Now I'll just add a really dope wide receiver, Luther Burden or something to this roster, and we just start stacking the pieces up. It's fine. Just don't cave. Don't be that person who goes, I'm scared. I don't want to.
Yeah, man, and you see it every year. I feel like the most predictable thing in fantasy is the injuries. It's the only thing that we really can't predict.
Hmm.
And look, it's gonna happen. People are gonna be down to just nothing. I've got a team with what Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones. So at 6, got a little Trey Lance. I kept on there 7. I got JJ McCarthy, Drake May. So that's like 8 or 9 right there. That's probably my biggest horde that I've got going on, and I feel like that's pretty nice. Only one of the guys is not starting, and that's not including McCarthy. So I mean, that's about what, a third almost of the NFL starting quarterbacks. Like if you do
Yeah,
that, people are going to be knocking on your door no matter what.
I got a league, just speaking of quarterback hoarder, that I started at the Expo 3 years ago, this league. So it's in its third year now. And I think I've only traded away one quarterback in 3 years, right? People freeze you
Man,
out. They don't want to pay the price. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this team going into this year, and it's been bad for the last couple of years. It has, but I've been okay with it. I've just been stacking early picks, and I'll trade other things as it goes. I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm going, man, this roster heading into 2024 is actually a playoff roster. Like right out to rip. Like I've gotten
Oh,
here
and you
and
at
I
home.
haven't leveraged any of these quarterbacks. And occasionally, you'll have ones that die off and they don't mean anything, like Ryan Tannehill's not on a team now. 3 years ago, that was a good piece to have on your quarterback hoard. It happens. It happens. But listen, this strategy is like it's almost foolproof as long as you just don't cave and let people lowball offer you. You just have to be okay with being bad for a while. And listen to how I play Dynasty anyways. Either I want to be that guy, I want to be that dude in the league where it's like, oh man, I gotta
Yeah.
play Mike this week, or man, how am I gonna beat Mike's team? Or I want to be the guy like, how am I gonna try to be worse than what Mike is,
Yeah.
right? Like, how am I gonna try to get this one? I don't like the middle. Some
Game
people are
first
really
or last.
comfortable. Yeah, some people are really comfortable with the middle. Maybe it's just all these best ball leagues I do because the variance is a lot less than in a lineup league, especially when you get to playoff time. Like the best teams usually win. Lineup leagues, you'll see that some of these, 5 seeds sometimes are in the championship game and they're like, see, just you played the variance. I don't like to do that. I'm either good or I'm not. One or the other.
Yep. Absolutely. And dude, I had a coupon yesterday, as you know, and we talked about Warp, but I still thought it would be dope just to get your take on it. Not the full breakdown like we did, but just how has Warp helped you win in some of your leagues? Because that's one of the big things that you guys are bringing to the table. So, and again, make sure you guys go to southharmonff.com. They got a sale going on for 50% off pretty much everything that they've got going on, including Warp. Think y'all's code is like Warp 50 or something like that. I got that right?
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it. You got a
Yeah,
big
man.
sale going
So,
on, man.
yeah.
I'll say this with Warp. When Koopa first brought it to me, it was interesting. We did a podcast on it. We kind of talked about it, but there was no real easy way to get it. Like you had to run all these data sheets, and he had to do it by hand, and then you put it in a Google Drive, and it was kind of you looked at it, but you didn't really pay too much attention to it. The minute Koopa designed that tool, and I was able to pull up any league I had, run the Warp on it at my leisure, sitting at work on the crapper. You got a few minutes, let's check out the Warp on this one. The minute that became like to the forefront and we really implemented it, and I started building teams based off of Warp last year, and I started just listen, I was kind of already headed in that direction, but this just confirmed a lot of my previous bias, being more player agnostic and just trying to look at what actually builds a good dynasty team that wins. Last year, I don't want to sound like a crappy salesman or used car salesman, but last year was my most successful year in Dynasty top to
Hey.
bottom. I mean, we're getting to week 17 last year, and I've always had a pretty sizable portfolio and it grows every single year, but usually around that time, I'm down to like just a handful of teams where I'm like really trying to
Hmm.
study and figure out matchups and like just really going to town on what I want to do in week 17. Last year in week 17, it was like, all right, well, I got like 25 teams in the championship game, so here we go. Like
Yeah.
the cards are on the table. I know I'm going to win some, I know I'm going to lose a couple, but you sit there at the end of the year, and at least for me, my measurement's always, that league safe balance. League safe pays out, everything from all your sleeper leagues, and I sit there and I look at all that money that's in there, and then I go right away and I start paying all my league dues for the next year and just make sure
Yeah.
they're all taken care of top to bottom. And when you get done and that balance is still really, really big, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
start a lot more leagues or the IRS is gonna get a hell of a share. That's when you know it's working. So, not to sound like a crappy used car salesman, but Warp has really changed the game for me because it just cuts through all the BS, man. All the player takes. I like them. I still have my own player takes. I still have my hot takes. But listen, I can look at anybody's league and I can tell you what positions actually matter in this league and how much they actually matter and where you should be investing your time and effort.
Yeah, man. And I like how Koopa gave like at least one anecdote of how you can actually apply it going forward. Because again, it's looking at what has happened in the past, but I thought it was really nice how he broke down how you can, add in your player takes to, hey, who do you think will actually hit this benchmark that someone else hit last year? Because if that's the case, I think I should be drafting this person higher if they're going to have this outcome that this other person had last year. And yeah, on my Patreon, I've got projections and rankings. So check that out, guys. And I know you guys have some cheat sheets coming out and all those things. So check out what they got going on over there. Yeah, I mentioned the hot take, and definitely want to see. Most of the time, I give people a chance to do a hot take, and then we close the show. But I was going to see if you could give us a hot take and give some context around it. So, is there any player take or whatever it might be that when we get here in the off season next year in January, you're like, "Yep, called it."
Oh, I got one. I was gonna go a little bit mild, and listen, I think it's hot. I think it's hot enough,
Okay,
but it's for you, man.
yeah,
I met
let's
you at the
go. Let's
expo.
go.
I had such a good time chopping it up with you. We'll go super spicy. Jaden Daniels will finish as a top five quarterback in 2024
Hey, with no Jahan Dotson.
with because he's getting Brandon Ayuk probably next week.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, dude. I didn't get a chance to break down that trade, man. But uh, dude, I had to get rid of Jahan Dotson a couple of years ago, and he's bounced around on a couple teams in our leagues and stuff like that. And then to see he ends up getting shipped off to the Eagles, I'm just like, this is bad for his dynasty value because he's going to be behind AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and I've stopped sleeping on Devonta Smith. That guy is good. So even though Jahan Dotson is also a first rounder, now they're saying his value is like third or whatever that you might want to classify that as, but he's going to be buried behind those two guys. But I think he'll definitely be the wide receiver 3. But since you're the Eagles fan, how do you feel about that trade? And is it good for you guys? And how do you think for both sides it plays out?
So I'll start from the fantasy perspective, and to be completely honest, and take my fandom out of it, it's probably a very lateral to downgrade move for him. In all reality, that's what it is. Because you go from possibly being the number 2 weapon there in Washington to now the number 3. But listen, as much as I love Jaden Daniels, I think we can all agree this Eagles offense is going to be ridiculous, at least for fantasy purposes. With Kellen Moore over there and the amount of times he likes to throw the football and we talk about neutral pass rates and all that. Kellen Moore will sling that thing around, and now they have just weapons just galore. I know we lost Jason Kelsey on the line, but man, Cam Jurgens is that dude to replace him. They bring over Mekhi Becton. That monster is going to start a guard for us. That offensive line is just going to keep on cooking. You got Saquon Barkley back there now. Dallas Goedert is healthy. Devontae Smith kind of in that Keenan Allen role for Kellen Moore's offense. Like I am really excited where this Eagles offense from an NFL perspective is going to go. It's a better offense than what Washington is. So even though maybe the perceived volume is going to go down, Jahan Dotson's still kind of going to be that flex-ish wide receiver who could he's going to have weeks. Like we're going to look up and go, man, Jahan Dotson had, 80 yards in a tutty this week. Like he was a, wide receiver 2. Like that's going to happen just because how are you going to cover every single person on this roster? Smitty's going to get open at will. AJ Brown's a monster down the field and after the catch. Dallas Goedert in the intermediate routes. Saquon Barkley out of the backfield and getting touches. And Jalen Hurts himself, like he's a threat just to run all over you. So from an Eagles fandom standpoint, like I love the trade, man. I think Howie Roseman just continues that trend of, pulling pulling the wool over people's eyes. He shows up, he just robs people left and right. He keeps it going, man. Like I love what Howie keeps doing, and adding Jahan Dotson makes me excited. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't think it's good or bad for him. Probably a slight downgrade if you're being completely honest. But listen, I most of my portfolio right now is best ball. So if you want to panic sell on Jahan Dotson, I'll go ahead. I'll throw you a third all day of the week for him. Like I'll put him on my roster because he's gonna have a few weeks this year where you go, wow, that dude out of the slot or playing on the outside, he's just wide open. He's just wide open.
And that first season he was killing it on touchdowns. The talent it's in there somewhere. The crazy part was, how did it not happen last year when they were leading the league in passing yards for basically 10 weeks before they benched Sam Howell? So that was kind of shocking that he just didn't have more production. But look, I think I haven't seen too many people getting hype on the Luke McCaffrey train. I mean, he's technically wide receiver 2 there right now as a rookie. So he's going to get a lot of reps to learn a lot from. Is this the time to go buy Luke McCaffrey?
I've been on Luke McCaffrey all through the pre-draft process, and then I like the landing spot. So I do like me some LMC. I do like him.
Yeah, we're
It's
in a little
interesting.
window here where
We're in
maybe IU gets
maybe
traded. So we're on the phone watch, y'all.
we are. We're waiting. We're waiting to see
Schefter
what
watch.
happens. If Ayuk goes there, then McCaffrey is just in a even worse spot than he was with Jahan Dotson there. Like you could make a nice case that maybe he could have carved out a really nice role even with Dotson there and kind of unseat him,
Yeah.
which it kind of sounded like maybe that was happening in training camp. I don't know. I don't know if this really helps him or not until we get official clarification of what happens with Brandon Ayuk. Like if you want to go out and buy Luke McCaffrey, I'm not going to go pay a second for him. I'm just not going to do it, right? It's conjecture, it's BS at this point, but listen, if you can like maybe get a third and throw in just a little juice piece or something, just some dart throw to get a little Luke McCaffrey and hopefully ride a what could be a pretty nice wave if he's going to get that work, I'm all for it. And for best ball purposes, man, Diami Brown was once dead. I mean, I play in rosters that are
Okay.
35, 36,
Diamond Brown
37.
love.
He was dead. He was DOA for the longest time, man. On waivers everywhere. I'm gonna go pick up some Diami Brown. Just as hey, can you give me 1 week, Diami? Just 1 week. Just J Day hits you for an 80-yard bomb. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. So how many leagues are you in? Like, I know you're able to be in more leagues because you can do a lot of best ball dynasty, and I'm not counting underdog best ball, but how many leagues do you think you're in?
Oh, actual leagues where I'm gonna have to do some work. Probably it's gonna be 55. Might be 60 by the time the season actually gets here. I got a few more kicking off this weekend where they're going to be officially official. So we're going to be pushing 60 for 2024, like
Woo.
managed leagues.
Yeah, Cooper, I think he said 47, something like that. I'm in the like 27 range, but I don't play best ball dynasty, so I'm those are all managed between my dynasty league. So I don't know why. I just love it more, but it is hard to get in more and more leagues, and since the expo, got into some other leagues, so it just keeps on adding up, man.
The last thing I'll say on the Dotson thing, too, just that you brought it up, I had to look between all these turd nugget wide receivers that they had last year Quez Watkins, Olamide Zaccheaus, Julio Jones, the dusty Julio Jones. There's 60 targets just went to those guys in an offense
Yeah,
that wasn't very good. I mean, if you're an Eagles fan last year, we kind of rode that wave of being undefeated there for a while, but that offense struggled, and I kept complaining about it every damn show I was on, every time we do a recap. Like, there's just something wrong with it. It's going to be light years better. So, it's 60 targets, kind of just up for grabs for the number 3 option at wide receiver, anyways, for Jahan Dotson in a much better offense. I might get a little bit more excited about Jahan Dotson. Maybe that's the hot take of the show is like, Mike's still in on Jahan Dotson. Make that
let's
the headline.
go. Yeah, man. Shoot, anything can happen, man. Look, you're right. Don't sleep on Jahan Dotson because really they've been trying to fill that spot. They draft Anais Smith out of Texas A&M. They take who's that super tall guy? They
Johnny
also got
Wilson,
yeah
yep, out of
Johnny
Florida
Wilson of
State.
Florida State. So I mean they're taking shots and sorry guys, sorry to my A&M friend. Nia Smith looks like he's getting buried this season,
He's
but
dead, man. I had so many shares of him too. I was like, listen, he could be a pretty good slot receiver
yeah,
for us. And my kick return yardage leagues, like Scott Fishbowl type scoring, I was all about the Anaya Smith, and now it's just like, oh no, oh no,
yeah,
that's over. We can
it's
just
rough.
cut him.
It's rough. Well, hey, because we've got college football coming back. Look, Iowa. What your first game versus what Illinois State? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
How you
Yeah.
feeling? How you feeling about that?
They named Cade McNamara started today, so yeah, I'm sad. It's been a bad day. It's been a bad day. It's been a bad day. It's been a real bad day. He has looked horrible this fall, coming off that injury. So
Rough.
listen, Brian Ferentz is no longer there to run the offense. I don't really know what the offense is going to look like. I just know our quarterback is not very good right now. The offensive line has struggled for the last couple of years as well. Not really being Iowa, being able to run the football. Defensively, we're loaded, just like always. So the defense is going to have to carry us again. So Listen, at least we start with a cupcake in Illinois State. And if it
Yeah,
turns into not a cupcake, where we're in the third, fourth quarter and they're within a touchdown or the game's tied, I am going to be shitting bricks. I'm like,
yeah,
oh no.
yeah. That's gonna be rough. It looks like y'all ended the last season ranked 24 and coming in this year ranked 25, if I'm seeing this right. So
It's all
you're ranked.
defense.
You're
All
right at the end
defense.
of the ranking, but you're ranked.
We up
Uh,
there. We up there.
and I had a I oh so hey, real quick, let's talk about actual prospect from Iowa. Who's the next tight end of the future? Who you got for us? Because I just
Now
had
you
John Laub on the show and he did a college football breakdown, but I don't think he mentioned this guy.
now you're speaking my love language. Luke Lachey is tight end one in
Let's
2025
go.
draft class. Luke Lachey is that dude. Colston Loveland out of Michigan is good, and I seen Dane Brugler here just yesterday released his top 50, and Colston Loveland was pretty far up there. But no offense, Dane, that is wrong. Swap that, right? You put Colston just outside the top 50. You put Luke Lachey up at the 20s. He's that dude. I did see a lot of this past draft cycle. People were kind of hyping up Eric Hall, even though he got injured. He was coming off that ACL, and Eric Hall is pretty decent. But when they were both healthy last year, this was Luke Lachey's team. The offense, however bad it was, went through Luke Lachey alone. And that's the dude where it's everything you want in a tight end. He's the next great one. I'm going to put my stamp on it. He's better than Sam Laporta, in my opinion. He's better than TJ Hawkinson. He's more complete than Noah Fant was. This is a dude
Okay.
that's, 6'5, 255, 260. He can block his ass off. He runs great routes. He is incredible at the catch point. And he's a little bit of a dynamic athlete there after the catch. So Luke Lachey is going to be that dude for your next tight end adventures.
Let's go. I love it. One of my first videos that no one should go back and watch because I was actually sick the first week I started the channel and I sucked even more than I do now. But dude, I did the 2025, 2026, 2027 mock drafts just because I'm in C2C. So I'm already looking at these guys. And yeah, I had him, I think, going in the second round, your guy next year, but maybe he goes a little higher. There's just so many running backs. And still some good receivers. I couldn't really place the quarterbacks, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the next Iowa tight end of the future, man. And we're gonna get out here in just a little bit, but since I got so many good takes out of you already, I was curious. First of all, I'm gonna be asking how far would you tear down from your QB1? This list has Mahomes. This isn't any of our rankings. It just has some of the quarterbacks up here. But first, tell me who's your quarterback one, and then how far would you tear down from them?
It's either Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. I don't really care who you pick out of those two. They both deserve to be up there. But those are the two most steady. Patrick Mahomes is good. But it's just different when you play fantasy football because rushing quarterbacks are king. And Mahomes does rush, but he doesn't run at the same clip that a Lamar, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, what Jaden Daniels is going to do this year, Anthony Richardson, etc. He's just not that dude. He's that kind of outlier from the standpoint of when he hits, when he has a really good season, it's because he's throwing for 4,500 plus yards and 40 touchdowns. And that's not always the most predictive. I think he's going to have a really good year now since they invested Xavier Worthy into that offense and they kind of got back to a little bit more of their Tyreek Hill identity. But Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, it's no question. They're QB 1 or 2, however you want to rank them. 1A, 1B. How about that?
Yeah, and then so back to the original question: how far down are you going to tear down from? Let's just call it Josh Allen.
I will go down, and this is the thing. Like, I am looking for rushing quarterbacks. So if you will let
Okay,
me tear down to Jaden
Jaden
Daniels or
Daniels.
Kyler Murray,
Yeah,
yeah, like Kyler Murray, I will go down to those guys. I'll say this too: as long as the Cowboys do the right thing and pay CeeDee Lamb, like Dak Prescott is kind of that cheap quarterback where I'm interested in down tiering from like a Hurts or a Josh Allen to a Dak Prescott because
okay.
you're not just picking up just a single first in a generic league. Like, you're going to pick up quite a bit. Like, people will be like, oh, yeah, I'll give you a first in 2 seconds, or I'll give you a first in this really good rookie, or whatever it may be. Like, you're going to get something extra on top. It's not just going to be a generic first. But I'll say this for like Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels. I'm okay in my leagues tearing down from a Josh Allen or my boy Jalen Hurts to one of those guys and just picking up a random first round pick in 2025.
All right. Well, man, yeah, I definitely agree. Give me one of those rushing quarterbacks, but yeah, some of these guys are. There's just so many elite guys that if you can get the right deal, don't be afraid to pull the trigger just because you got a player bias or something like that. So yeah, man, appreciate you coming on the show. Let the people know where they can find you, and again, thanks for coming on.
Hey, anything for you, man. I had such a good time meeting you, meeting you at the expo. I know I was gassed up. I mean, we're on Friday. I'd been there
Yeah.
since Tuesday morning, so I'd had my fair share of alcohol by then. Had my fair share of a good time by then. But yeah, if you want to check us out, southharmonff.com, South Harmon Fantasy Football on YouTube, and if you really, really want to kick yourself in the balls, you can follow me on Twitter at Iowa Michael. It's not the greatest thing. I mostly just shit post and you tag Sleeper every single day, beg him to get us college fantasy football so I can have all my C2C leagues on Sleeper platform and not have to use Fantrax. No offense, Fantrax, if you're watching, still love you, appreciate what you do. I just want it all in one place. I want to open the app and just go college fantasy 2. Done deal.
Yeah, I love that they at least added the substitution thing. You know what I'm talking about, where you can do the backup
Auto
player in
sub,
case the
yeah.
auto sub. Yeah, because that's a C2C staple, and so now that we've got that on the NFL side, that's awesome.
It's like janky baseball. All right, it's not the same. It's kind of like it, right? I hate when people compare it though. They're like, "Oh, it's basically like playing bet." No, it is nothing like playing baseball. Stop it. You have no idea. This is definitely coming from an account that has never played in a baseball dynasty league before, ever, ever.
Yeah,
Stop it.
I want to see it in action, but give them a little bit of grace if there's some glitches. But hopefully not. But hey guys, appreciate y'all joining us this episode. Hey, you can find me on Twitter at Dynasty FK and follow Mike at Iowa Michael. And guys, subscribe to the channel. We're really close to the season. I'm gonna be here with more Dynasty content, but still giving some weekly updates on waivers and pickups and what you guys need to win some of your leagues. We're not going anywhere. So appreciate y'all, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.